Good morning, my fellow peasants. It's me, and today we will talk about anxiety. So, yes, I am anxious, and if you're a living, breathing human being watching this, I know you sure as hell are anxious as well. Anxiety is something that permeates so much of our lives. It costs us time, energy, our well being. It may interfere with our tasks and performances, and at times even our relationships. Point is, a lot of us struggle with anxiety, and it's safe to say that most of us don't like it. Most of us want to get rid of it and be free from it, like we would want to be free from a pathology. We treat anxiety like a pathology of the human condition that we have to fix. But there's a catch. Now, what is that catch? Well, anxiety isn't really a pathology to fix. If it is one, then it's a pathology we can't fix because we are human. And the more I live and the more I learn about people and anxiety, the more I realize that to be human is to be anxious. Why? Well, think about it. We were all thrown into this world with no definitive guide or blueprint on what it means to be a good human, to live a good life, to treat others right and take care of ourselves, regulate our emotions, process our traumas, etc., etc. We all have different perspectives, some better than others perhaps, but the entirety of human history has been comprised of people fighting over these perspectives, and today, after thousands of years, we still can't come to a universal agreement on virtually everything. No one has the definitive answers. And yet, we're expected to have everything together, to get a good job, find fulfilling work, find the best partner, be the best partner, take care of the people around you, be charming, be hardworking, be mentally tough, be cool in a way that's not cringe, and also find out what the hell is going on in that mind of yours and self-regulate. Point is, given that we're born into the world with limited time, resources, and barely any knowledge outside of what other people tell us, we will always be anxious about something. There will always be something to worry about and be anxious about because we don't know everything and we don't know where we are going, what we are doing. And that's why all of us are anxious. You, me, babies, children, teenagers, adults, and old people alike. Situations will go wrong. People will mistreat you. Sometimes it feels like the world is out to get you and you don't know what to do about it. Maybe it is. Maybe the world is out to get you, but anxiety doesn't have to be such a bad thing. Anxiety is there because it's trying to point you to something. Now, it isn't the most efficient at pointing out exactly what you need to do. It often appears as this feeling of dread in your gut and in your chest, which is why you should learn to befriend it and allow it to actually help you. So, how do we do this? Well, there are three keys to this. First is changing our attitude about anxiety. Two is realizing the nature of anxiety. And three has to do with how we actually respond to and process any feelings of anxiety. So, on the first thing, our attitude towards anxiety, at the heart of it, we are all way too anxious about being anxious. Oftentimes, the reason anxiety ends up consuming us is because the moment it appears, we fall into a panic. And this leads to one thought spiraling into a million other thoughts. And the worst of anxiety doesn't come from anxiety itself. It comes from how we react to it. And this very much was the case with me, as I often experienced anxiety attacks at night. And the moment something came up, I would worry about getting an anxiety attack. I would start resenting the fact that I was anxious. A thought about something the next day, like a social interaction, a test, performance, person, situation, would lead to all thoughts about all the ways that could go wrong, all the ways that thing could go wrong, all the things other people could think, all the ways it could destroy me, etc., etc. But one thing I learned to change this is that anxiety is comprised of thoughts without a thinker. Buddhist traditions like meditation show us that anytime we try to shift our attention to something like our breath and keep it there, a thought will inevitably come up. So, for example, if I'm just trying to focus on my breath, I just randomly thought of a park nearby just now. Why did I think of it? I don't know. It just appeared. And so, if we look closely at our thoughts, we realize that we don't think most of our thoughts. Most of them just arise on their own. And the same is the case for anxiety and anxious thoughts. When we recognize this, and we recognize that we aren't our thoughts, we aren't our anxiety, we don't have to attach ourselves to them. We can approach them with curiosity and gentleness. We can take one thought for what it is without having it spiral into a million others. And so the recognition that anxiety is an inevitable part of being human and that we aren't the author of our anxiety and anxious thoughts allows us to better accept it. It removes the need to be anxious about being anxious. It isn't something we need to get rid of for good, because that's impossible. Once we understand our true relationship to our anxiety, we realize that we are not hostage to it. And it is something we can even be curious of, befriend, and learn to live with. So after we've taken this to mind, there comes the second part, which is realizing the nature of anxiety. The second key that's helped me in learning is learning that anxiety is a form of unfocused fear, a milder form of ancestral fear. This is something that an author, Arthur Brooks, talks about. Back then, in the ancestral environment, fear was something that was episodic and rare. But when it hit, it really hits. You hear a twig rustle, and off you go sprinting because that might mean something is chasing you to bite your neck off and to eat your bones, break your bones, etc., etc. Nowadays, there aren't as much killers chasing after you. But you know how things like social media, traffic, work, school, and family demands, fear becomes something that is milder, but wider and more chronic in the modern age. And this is something that we experience as modern anxiety. We worry about all these different things, and often these worries spiral into a lot more. So, what do we do about this? Well, this is where we get to the third key, which is how we actually respond to and process any feelings of anxiety. Once we realize that anxiety isn't something to fix, but something to live with, and once we realize that anxiety is an unfocused form of fear, it becomes obvious that we shouldn't avoid it, let alone resent it. You should befriend it, learn about it, focus it, and turn this unfocused anxiety permeating across all these different variables and possibilities and turn it into what it's supposed to be. Fear. Fear. Something that still isn't pleasant, but is clear and more manageable, and can even help you make the right decisions or do the right thing if you use it right. So, how do you do this? It comes down to asking yourself 4 questions about the anxiety. 1, what is the source of my anxiety? 2, what is the worst thing that could happen? 3, what is the probability that this is going to happen? And 4, what will I do if the worst happens? So let's take a simple example. Let's say I'm about to study, which I actually am, and I have a test tomorrow. What is the source of my anxiety? The test. What is the worst thing that could happen with this test? I fail the test or I even get a 0. Now, what is the probability of that happening? If I study well, it likely isn't probable. What will I do if it happens? I'm gonna feel bad about the bad grade, maybe. I'll maybe think about its effect on my overall grades. But then I'm gonna do what I can in the next test and do my best to make up for it if ever I do end up failing the test. But for now, I recognize the fear of getting a bad grade. I can accept that I'm scared of failing the test. For now, I'll focus on studying and do my best. And I already know what I'm gonna do if it comes to the worst. And so I no longer need to worry so much about it. I just need to do what I can. And it's clear to me that what I need to do right now is study. So when I've processed any anxiety that I was feeling and learned what it's really about and what I'm gonna do about it, anytime anxiety comes up, I can remind myself that it's okay to feel what I'm feeling, but I've processed what I already need to. And so I can focus on just doing what I can. I can focus on what's in front of me right now. So in summary, right, the first point is that when it comes to our attitude towards anxiety, we are way too anxious about being anxious. Anxiety is a part of being human. It isn't something to fix or get rid of, but rather something to accept and be curious of. The sooner we learn this, the less power it will hold over us. And on the second point, anxiety is an unfocused form of fear. It is this unfocused nature of anxiety that makes it seem to permeate the entirety of our being in all these other areas of your life. And going to the third, to process this anxiety, we need to focus on what it's supposed to be, fear. And we can do this by learning about the anxiety through some of the questions that I mentioned earlier, like what is its source? What is the worst thing that could happen? How probable is that? And what will we do about it if that happens? Once we get to this point, we can be more at peace with the fact that we are anxious, and we can better manage our anxiety and even use it to focus on what we need to do. And so yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this helps in any way whatsoever. And if you have any thoughts, or say you want a written version of this that's easier to go back to, just let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, for now, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a good morning. See you.